Talk to me. I feel hot. I can see a flame. Am I going to crash? In May 1961, a terrifying transmission crackled through static. It was the voice of a woman speaking Russian, screaming that her spacecraft was burning up on re-entry. Achille and Gian Judica-Cordiglia recorded this from an abandoned bunker near Turin. Working as amateur radio operators, they caught the signal just days before the Soviet Union announced Yuri Gagarin as the first human in space. The brothers operated a highly sophisticated, scavenged listening station. Through the static of the early space age, they claimed to capture other anomalies on Soviet frequencies, an SOS signal drifting further and further away from Earth, and the rhythmic, agonizingly slow thumping of a dying human heartbeat. These intercepts formed the foundation of the lost cosmonaut conspiracy. The theory proposed that the Soviet Union was launching multiple crews into orbit, watching them suffocate or burn, and then quietly erasing their existence to hide the failures. The official Soviet program projected an image of flawless engineering and triumphant, smiling heroes. In the Kremlin's narrative, there were no public accidents or technical delays, only pristine victories. By operating their space program as a total black box, the Soviet state created a vacuum of information. Without verifiable data, a paranoid Western public naturally filled that silence with their darkest fears. Because the USSR refused to announce launches in advance or publish orbital trajectories, Western intelligence and amateur trackers were left to guess what was happening above their heads, based entirely on scattered radio telemetry. Weeks before Gagarin's historic launch, a Soviet capsule returned to Earth and parachuted into the snow. Recovery crews rushed to the site, only to find a lifeless test dummy named Ivan Ivanovich. The Soviet designers knew Western listeners were eavesdropping. To test the capsule's communication systems without sparking rumors of a doomed cosmonaut, they hooked Ivan up to a tape recorder that played a choir singing and a recipe for beetroot soup. They even taped a sign spelling "model" across his face, just in case a local villager found him first. Modern linguistic analysis reveals glaring flaws in the Judica-Cordiglia recordings. The supposed female cosmonaut uses incorrect Russian grammar and unnatural speech patterns. Physicists have also pointed out that her capsule's reported trajectory and atmospheric re-entry profile do not align with orbital mechanics. While the specific audio tapes were likely hoaxes, the underlying suspicion in the West was accurate. The Soviets were actively running a hidden, deadly shadow program. The deadliest failures of the Soviet space race occurred within classified training facilities, far away from amateur radio antennas. Weeks before Gagarin's flight, Valentin Bondarenko, the youngest cosmonaut candidate in the program, was completing an endurance test in a pressurized, oxygen-rich isolation chamber. He accidentally dropped an alcohol-soaked cotton swab onto a hot plate, igniting the atmosphere. He burned alive before technicians could equalize the pressure to open the door. Soviet censors removed Bondarenko's medical records, classified his death, and quite literally airbrushed his face out of the official group photographs. He vanished from history to protect the image of a flawless program. Political pressure to beat the Americans routinely overrode basic engineering safety. In 1967, Vladimir Komarov was assigned to fly the new Soyuz 1 spacecraft, despite technicians identifying over 200 structural defects. The launch proceeded to coincide with a major communist anniversary. Once in orbit, the navigation failed and the capsule lost power. As Komarov plummeted back into the atmosphere, his main parachute refused to deploy. U.S. listening posts in Turkey intercepted his final transmissions. He died cursing the state officials who put him in a broken machine. To mask the lethal negligence of the state, the Soviet leadership organized a massive public funeral. Komarov's remains were given full honors, sealing his death inside a sanitized narrative of heroic sacrifice. The USSR proved it was willing to sacrifice its own heroes to maintain a facade of technological supremacy. The line between the phantom cosmonauts of Western imagination and the real, suppressed victims of Soviet ambition had blurred. It took decades for the truth to surface. In the 1980s, Mikhail Gorbachev instituted Glasnost,
a policy of political openness that forced the Soviet state archives to finally declassify their space program's failures. This timeline charts the official Soviet space race narrative. For 30 years, it depicted an uninterrupted march with 0 fatalities. But when archives opened, the timeline fractured, revealing hidden catastrophes, like the 1960 Nidilin disaster, where an experimental missile exploded, incinerating over 100 people. The lost cosmonaut myth endures because of how we perceive the unknown. Space is a silent, lethal void, and when a government operates in total darkness, human imagination inevitably populates that silence with monsters. The archives give us the names of those who died on the launch pads and in the test chambers, but in a regime built on airbrushed lies, we are left to wonder who else was left behind in the dark.